Okay, so the learning management system they mentioned here, we use Edmodo for our learning management system. Anybody else use Edmodo? Does anybody else use Schoology, My Big Campus, Blackboard, Angel, anything else like that? Okay.
Moodle.
What was it?
Moodle.
Moodle, okay. Google Classroom is another semi-LMS too. Of these systems, as they're saying here, I like the fact that they say 2 classrooms, because I told that to my parents at open house night this September. We have this room, 110, the room that we were in, but we also have the online room. And I only saw their students for, I had them do some quick math. Anybody know offhand how many minutes there are in a week? How many minutes in a week? If you do the math, there's about 10,000 minutes in a week. I see my students for about 100 minutes for that, of that 10,000. Who can do the quick math and turn that into a percentage? 10,000 and 1,000, or 100. It's 1%. So 1% of the time my students spend in a week, they spend that with me. And I told my parents that I don't think that's enough time. I want to be more of a presence in your child's lives. And 1% of their week is just not enough for me to accomplish, to make much change. So that's why we have 2 classrooms. We have our Edmodo classroom and room 110 at Amherst Middle School is our other classroom. So this was a good setting the stage video for that. And I like these Common Craft style videos too for explaining a whole bunch of concepts. So if you ever are in that pinch where you need to get a quick description of something, check out their 100 or so videos they have, which are a lot of technology-based videos. Flip Learning Explained, this was good for school administrators, especially mine that I'm working with that, come because of APPR, they have to evaluate us. They have to use the district-approved rubric to do so. For us, it's the Thoughtful Classroom Teacher rubric. Anybody else using that one in New York State? No, we don't find too many people using the same one. Problem is, I tell them I wish they could evaluate me on the Flip Learning rubric, but that's not how it works in New York State because that wasn't approved by state ed. But anyways, make a long story short, this is a great, I have a series of 3 different videos here to watch that show you what flipped learning is all about in 2 or 3 minutes or less. So I'm not going to play them here because you guys can check them out on your own independently. But the first one talks about, from an administrator point of view, especially for at-risk kids. I think that schools in Chicago, and they were talking about how test scores were raised because of how teachers were implementing flipped learning. The middle one is talking about student projects, and the last one has to do with a science class. So great videos to show administrators. I've been sharing this one out with all my grad students as an intro to what flipped learning is all about. So those are good resources to look at. As far as the definition of flipped learning, an official one did come out within the past year because there are so many different misconceptions about it. This is the definition. It's quite lengthy, but I think if you look at it piece by piece, it does a great job explaining how basically you're taking direct instruction, moving it from the group space to the individual space. And that's accomplished through screencasting, which is what we're showing you today. Thanks to screencasting, we can now move that direct instruction. And then, as a result, that means the class time is opened up to have more dynamic learning time, not just one person talking like I'm doing now, but individual one-on-one contact between teachers and students. The 4 pillars, this is the rubric which I wish I could have been evaluated on for APPR. They break it down into subcategories here on the side. But basically, it's your environment, the culture of learning, your content of how you're delivering that to students, and then your work as a professional educator. So I think that serves well for those that have to be evaluated in terms of how they're implementing the flipped learning concept in their classrooms. I have a couple articles that have been published over the years. One of them is from the Journal, another from Hetchinger Report and eSchool News. Links are there if you want to check those out. We do a lot of stuff with TechSmith. That's a lot of the software I'll be showing today. And thanks to TechSmith, they were able to help me get some articles published about what we're doing in my classroom at Amherst Middle School and with the online grad students at Canisius with screencasting. All right, so I have a couple of slides to go with here. My journey into the flipped classroom. I find a lot of people are curious, if you do all the screencasting stuff and you've been doing it for so many years, how did you get started? Like, did the administration say you have to do this? Or, did you learn it in a college class? And the answer is no. I did it all because of jury duty. So let me start on the first slide here. It's a very odd story. That's why I wanted to present it this way for you. So we have, and this, by the way, was campus tech, so ignore what it says across the top there. That was from our summertime thing. So the flipped classroom is, for me, started through a jury summons. That's actually not mine. I grabbed that image off of YouTube, or off Google image search. So TechSmith learned about my story, and they published something that people could check out, a little video, from they sent a crew out from Michigan, where they're located, and they made a little case study, and I'll show that to you now. The sound's going to come from my laptop, so it's going to be, I'll go as loud as I can. Let's see if I can go full screen. I'm Rob Zdrojewski. I'm a middle school technology teacher at Amherst Middle School. Right now it's approximately 8:20 in the morning, and in about a half hour the students will be coming into school like a regular routine day.
Mr. Z has been doing a jury duty for the past week or so.
And he's been giving us videos through Edmodo to tell us our assignments.
Since he's been gone, we've had a lot of subs, but we still were able to watch the videos, so it's just like he was still in class.
I did it with Snagit. Snagit is a great little tool. I can record whatever's on my screen, including my webcam. So I put it in a little corner of the screen myself. So I think it gives like that human element when you can see the person talking to you and not just hear the voice.
Mr. Z's class is really cool, actually. I love it.
I like how we get to use phones and computers in Mr. Z's class.
We were taught how to use Google Docs on the computer, and we had to create a survey.
Well, at the beginning, we had to use Evernote to find all the items we wanted, and then we implanted all those items and their prices into Google spreadsheet.
I went to Edmodo and I found out Monday's assignments because it said Monday's assignments and the date.
And then using that, we, as you can see here, we made a survey to see what people said would be better.
This is my survey, actually, that I offered everybody, which it's got different questions on it, and right here I'm explaining how you can create all the different questions and stuff like that. So.
Well, in the past, without using screencasting, I come back in the next day looking at those plans and you don't know what you're going to get. In some cases it's, we tried working on this, but we had trouble, so the kids used it as a study hall.
We're using our work time to hand in our assignments and do the assignments that he's given us.
I thought it was really fun. It's much better than writing an essay on it.
I'm Rob Zdrojewski. I'm a teacher, a father, and a juror, and I'm still teaching my students even though I'm out on jury duty, thanks to screencasting. So that was my story of how I got started with screencasting. It all started with jury duty. And those that are from Buffalo know that wasn't really a courthouse in that picture. That was, where was it? Albright Knox Art Gallery, yes. The morning when we had to film, the downtown on Franklin Street, the courthouse just wasn't that very picturesque. It was a lot of trees and stuff and construction going on. So I said, well, let's fake it as we do in the movie industry, and let's just make it look like we're going to a courthouse. So that's actually the Albright Knox. It wasn't even open. I had to make it look like I was entering the door and stuff like that. But for the non-Buffalo people, I guess it kind of sells the story. So that's really my foray into it was, as you heard the kids talking about, Evernote, Google Docs, making surveys, making screencasts. That's a lot of technical stuff that I can't rely on a sub to deliver that information. In Erie County, when you're on grand jury duty, it's a month-long commitment for 2 to 3 days a week, and they're different days within the week. So it's very unreliable. When am I going to be here? When's a sub going to be here? It's very mixed during that time. So I was able to use Snagit to record screencasts of my direct instruction. And then the feedback loop came through using Edmodo, because kids would post their assignments, they would post questions that they're having, and in between cases I'd be able to open up the Chromebook at the time I had and answer kids back. And there's a lot of downtime when you're sitting there on jury duty. So by using that concept I thought, well, what if I continue to do this when I'm back from jury duty? And I take my direct instruction and rather than make it lecture style like this, make it in chunks of video chunks so kids can watch, whether they're in class watching it or home watching it or study hall. They can watch from their mobile device even if they want to. So now I found a way to digitally multiply myself. So I have my students have access to me more than just that 1% of the week that they spend with me face to face. So now it really comes down to what's the most crucial stuff you have to do face to face, and what stuff can I outsource? So I outsource stuff to myself. I make a video of direct instruction because that could be done at any time. It doesn't have to be done during third period on a Tuesday. So that way you can outsource your own instruction to yourself. So let's go back to...
And it also is a way to differentiate instruction. So, Rob is a special area teacher. We work in more of that special education domain. So we have students at different levels. As you know, everyone's doing that mainstream inclusion piece. Some kids need it slowed down. They need to go back and have it, look at it again, go to a parent. But in the elementary school, the new math is foreign to me. You need a calculator, you need it, we did it, it's easy. The new math, I have no clue. Even an educated person who has gone through that can't explain it to their own child because it's done a different way. So the parent can look at that video, they can learn how to do it themselves, help their child, and sort of bounce ideas back and forth. So not only are you duplicating yourself, which is embedding natural ways to differentiate instruction.
And kids really appreciate the fact when they can not only hear their teacher, but see their teacher. So you'll see in a lot of my screencasts, the ones that I make on the desktop at least, but you can still do it with the iPad apps too. I put myself in the bottom corner of the screen like I'm doing now. So when I make this presentation into a YouTube video, the bottom corner will have myself in it. So it's nice, it makes it more personal when you can see the person that's talking to you and you don't feel like you're just learning from a computer screen, which since kids spend a lot of time in front of the screen, that's a way to help psychologically make it feel like you're still learning from a person and not just the screen. The purpose of this picture up here is a classroom design that I've never taught in. I remember this all through high school and middle school, but I will refuse to teach in a classroom that has rows of desks. I think the only benefit to this is it's easier for the custodians to bring the brooms down each row, piece by piece. I can't see any other advantage to it once you've been in a flipped learning classroom. Instead, and this is the really old picture, I mean, what you just saw compared to this, pretty much same idea, maybe minus the abacus is there, but you know, things haven't changed much if your classroom still looks kind of like that. So now this is my classroom here. I have the main tables that I built where we begin and end class each day, so we do have face-to-face time, and make sure of that. But majority of the period is spent out and about on mobile devices or around the perimeter of the room on the desktop computers. And then as you can see off to the right here, I built a green screen TV studio, which is, did we give you guys? Yeah, we gave you a 8.5 by 11 sheet there that talks about that, what we do with our Tech TV program. So a lot of what I do during the day in class is making projects that feed into the morning show. So we're kind of content creators throughout the day, and we have a place to showcase all the student work we do on the extracurricular club, which is our morning live TV show. So that's actually another workshop for another time, but I do a lot of green screen workshops on how to do live morning TV shows.
But you can see the where Rob's desk is sort of that piece where he can see all the computers.
Right.
He is still monitoring because he does have middle school students. And they will try to get away with whatever they can. So he does have access.
And from that screen right there, you can see it there. These show me the thumbnail images of all the screens. We use NetOp, which is a lab management software. So I get a little thumbnail image that refreshes every 5 seconds. So I do see all the screens in one centralized place there too. So again, the definition there of flipped learning, I think the most important piece of this is this part about direct instruction moves from the group learning space to the individual learning space. And as a result, we now have a more dynamic, interactive environment where I can guide students, not direct students, as they apply things because of the screencasting as the means of direct instruction. Question?
We're using one-to-one works here with iPads. Is there anything that you know of on the iPads that allows us to do the same thing with the thumbnails of all the desktop screens?
Nearpod is one I keep hearing a lot about. It's not so easy in the world of Apple. On Android tablets, there's a lot that work for that, especially the NetOp that we're using does work on Android-based tablets. But Apple really locks it down tight, so there's very few solutions for it. Does anybody have any solutions for iOS devices?
In order for us to allow the kids to do what we want them to do, minimal restrictions, which allows them to get to places that we necessarily don't want them to.
But I think the bigger umbrella with that is that whole teaching the digital citizenship piece. So using X amount of weeks to continuously go over and over and over what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and dealing with consequences. It's harder to monitor because you're not being able to see every little thing that's happening on the iPad.
I don't think even in 7th grade, the average student is responsible enough that there's only 1 or 2.
Always.
The teacher in me says, you know, we should teach the skills and have it open, but the administrator side says, well, we have to be accountable and we have to make sure we know where kids are going and all that. So there's, you know, the never-ending both sides to that story. In the back, did you have a recommendation? Okay. Very good. Yeah, it really gets difficult in the world of Apple because they're not meant to be enterprise devices. They're personal devices that are meant to be unrestricted. But there are solutions out there. I know Nearpod is one that I've heard a lot of talk about, but that's really more of a, you know, I'm going to show you a PowerPoint, so I'll give you control of the slides thing, not overall let me see what you're doing on your screen. It's more of a teacher to student rather than student to teacher direction. All right, so we have our definition of flipped learning. The 3 questions that I come up with all the time is, who's in the driver's seat? You can see on the left-hand side, it's a traditional setting, teacher's in charge. And this is me too, sometimes during the class, not the majority, but maybe 10 to 20% of the time. giving direct instruction, usually at the very beginning of class, as compared to here, where the students are working. As questions come up, they will ask, rather than the teacher trying to make sure that they address all the questions that might come up in the beginning. Passive or active learning, comparing those, and then again that question of, and this is what John and Sam always, John Bergman and Aaron Sams always say, is what is the best use of your face-to-face time? It really, that's a great question if you can really burn that in and think about that. Like, do I need to deliver this demonstration on the cross-multiplying formula live, or could I make a screencast for it? I just had that last week during my robotics competitions. And I want to spend most of the time with the kids competing with their programming their robots and racing them in our little table that I built. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing what the teacher does on the left, which is going through a formula of how to do the cross-multiplying formula. So I did a brief demonstration with one sample, made sure they all understood it, and then after that point, if they didn't understand it, I was referring them back to that video. And they wanted to make sure that they had that formula right, because if they did, their robot would compete quite well, and they wouldn't let the rest of the class down. But if they were having trouble with it, instead of me taking the time out from the rest of the class, they could go off, watch that. If that still didn't make sense, then they come and see me. So it's almost like creating triage in your classroom. They'll only come and talk with you one-on-one if it's something they just totally don't get, and they've talked with other students, they've looked at your screencast video, and they've kind of exhausted all the resources. The last thing that is to come ask the teacher. Rather than now, when I got 20-some kids, 11, 12-year-olds, come right to me, how do I do this? Where do I start? What's next? And it's like, you know, did you look at the screencast yet? Did you look at my, no, okay, well that's where you need to go. So that probably gets solved within the first 2 to 3 weeks of class. Now, as we're in week 13, I think, in school, the kids know that don't ask Mr. Z a question about what should I do next until you've looked at his Google Doc that has all the screencasts on it. And I'm going to show you guys that today, too.
And you got to remember, Rob's been doing this now for 3-4 years, right?
Flipped learning, or probably 5 or 6 years, yeah. Yeah.
So he started with the jury duty piece. So that was just the time he was out. He was sort of, like he used the word triaging, doing it for that purpose. You got to start small if you haven't been doing this flipped learning. You can't just jump in and say, okay, tomorrow everything's going to go to this form. I'm going to make the screenshots and things like that. Because it is front-loading what you've been doing already in the classroom. And you'll drive yourself nuts if you start that way. So
start with one lesson.
One unit and having the students acclimate to what you're doing. I mean, if you look at the independent skills of those kids for the jury duty video, they knew the Google Docs. They knew how to put the Google spreadsheet. They knew how to record. I mean, that was a lot of layering of different things that they're going through. Those kids could come to any one of these presentations that we did yesterday or today and be able to go through the whole thing, you know, as more of the masters, as natives. So starting small of what you're doing and sort of embedding and layering on top of that.
And one wish I had, I wish other teachers would use Google Docs in the same fashion for their handouts. Rather than giving paper handouts that are, I call them dead documents. Once they're handed out, you can't change it. But by using a live document, like a Google Doc, I can change that on the fly. Especially when I have those kids that work really fast ahead of the rest of the crew. They might be down on step 22, 23, when the rest of the class is on step 12. And then if I made a mistake with how I explained something, I know it, because those, as I call them, beta testers, they will say, hey, Mr. Z, it didn't make sense. You said about the blue button, but I didn't see a blue button when I was making a new slide. Then I go, uh-oh, wait a minute, Google changed that. I better make a quick fix. So during my plan period, I'll record a little 2-minute screencast, throw the link in for that, and replace the old link, and now the rest of the class doesn't even know that that happened. So that's a great thing when you have those kids that do work ahead. They kind of discover the bugs as you go. I'm calling them beta testers or pilot testers, and that happens all the time. So that's a process that I wish, and I, as a classroom teacher, I can't make that call, but as an administrator, I might be able to show other teachers the benefit of having a Google Doc as your handout for workflow, for whatever the task might be, as long as it's something that can be done on a desktop, laptop, or iPad. So my little image here said, just to be half jokingly, here's the three of us here, I'm in the middle. Let's jump in, but never jump in with iPads in your hands in the water. But that is our foray now into the next piece. So I can close that.
When you're making those documents, don't use dates, because it sort of holds you back to it. So you can just say the next sequence.
Yes, John and Aaron say that a lot too. When you're making a screencast, never say something like, today we're going to begin chapter 3. And chapter 3 talks about reducing fractions. Because next time you go through your unit, it might not be chapter 3 anymore. Also, don't say dates. You know, next week, Thursday, when we begin this unit, you know, next time it might not be Thursday. So that's a little tip that I've learned kind of the hard way to avoid having to re-record your videos. Watch out for stuff like that. Identifying by semester for my grad students too. I never say like in the fall semester we're going to do this. You know, you kind of stay away from that. So now this is what I call the meat and potatoes of this workshop, is the case studies that I'm going to go through now. I've got 7 different workflows, and I thought the best way to demonstrate a variety of apps here would be giving us a task that we might be familiar with doing already, but showing you how that task can be accomplished using an iPad app. So let's get some shows of hands. How many have used ScreenChamp before? Anybody use ScreenChamp? Okay, that's a free one. How about EDUcreations or EDUcreations? Okay. Anybody use Explain Everything? A few more on that one. And then how about Coach's Eye? All right, that's for like sports analysis. So I'm going to go through them kind of starting from the most basic as number one, getting into the most complex. And we'll start out with handwriting on the whiteboard. If you imagine, we do this all the time with a marker on the board, just handwriting, but now this is a way to capture that and record a voice along with it. So I'm going to do a math demonstration using ScreenChamp. And I have these all hyperlinked in case you're wondering where they go. It takes you right to the iTunes download page just so you can get an idea of what the icons look like. And this one is a good one to start with because it's a free one and a very simple one. So I will now minimize this, and I need to pull up our screen here. Okay. So I'm going to go to my ScreenChamp, the one here right in the middle. And this one's made by TechSmith. This is more of an experimental app. It's really not fully baked yet. They've been playing around with this one for probably 3, maybe 4 years now. I have the feeling that it may go away because within the past 2 weeks, TechSmith, the software company, has acquired Nomia. Has anybody ever heard of? I'll show you what the app looks like. That one up there, Nomia Teach. Anybody familiar with that one? That was kind of a big deal because that has a lot of bells and whistles into it. So TechSmith, like happens in many technology companies, they just bought that whole company out. So now as a result, they're going to put in their features along with what's in there. So I haven't even played much with Nomia yet. It is very feature rich. I'll go into it towards the end a little bit when I go over some of the other apps that I use. But just to let you know, that is going to probably incorporate a lot of the stuff you see here from ScreenChamp, the free app. But as far as I know, ScreenChamp is still available in the App Store, and it's not going away anytime soon. But just be aware that in case you plan on using it like in June or something later on in the school year. So we have a blank canvas here. Across, I'll use my laser pointer to show you some stuff here. Anything we've recorded in the past is accessible up here, but these 3 little icons. Now I just installed it on this iPad I'm using, so what we record today is going to be put up there in kind of a menu. And across the bottom we have some options here. On the far left is inserting other elements. We can choose something from our library, such as maybe if we have a photograph that we want to use, something from the camera roll. You can insert that in, and then that will be scalable and movable. Imagine 3 different pages here you have, so I'll put it in the middle page. I'll hit done. So by using 2 fingers, I can now go, here we are in the middle page, and we're on the last page. This reminds me of years ago, the overhead projector with the clear plastic wheels, and you would roll it across. Same idea, now we're just doing it in a digital sense here. So if I want to get rid of that, I go to remove background. Other things we have, it does link up with Dropbox, so if you're using the cloud-based storage of Dropbox, you can insert images from there. I could take a photo now if I needed to for some reason, and this might be good if you have, say, even a sheet of paper, then a common worksheet that you need to get a picture of. Maybe in this case I'm teaching keyboarding, so I get a little picture of, if I want to say the home row keys. I've got to go back a little bit. I'm holding it at an angle here because of the way I'm connected to the projector. But normally that would work just fine without having to, yeah, it's because I'm the way I'm there. You can use 2 fingers though to rotate, so let's see, there we go. So we rotate it, we make it bigger, and then we say done, and that picture is there. So now when we're talking about a screencast, we can talk about the home row keys, ASDF, JKL semicolon, and you get the idea. You can draw right on top like that. So that's the first button there. The erase button here is that little wiping symbol there. When you touch and hold it, the little cloth goes across and wipes the whiteboard out. You have 3 writing utensils. If you touch it once, you get to see different colors, and you have thicknesses of the pens. So I'll make the red one fine, I'll make the medium one blue, and I'll make the wide one green. So I have 3 different thicknesses there. And just to show you, here's fine, here's medium, and here's the really coarse one. All right, touch and hold erases that. And then we also have the erase key here, so if I had some stuff on there and I wanted to manually erase it with my finger, you could do that too. But I like touching and holding that to do the whole thing. And then of course we have in the bottom corner, where it's kind of behind my picture-in-picture window, but there's a big red record button. So most people see that and they say, oh, okay, I guess I can record here. So they've really made the interface very minimal just to keep it very simple. So I'm going to record now a math demonstration, probably middle school math, early middle school. So here we go. And I'm just going to use the mic. Hi everybody, it's Mr. Z, and I'm going to record a little example here of my math. If we do 2x plus 2 equals 10. All right, I'm going to switch to my other marker here. So 2x plus 2 equals 10. We want to get that x all by itself. So if you remember from the other day, we said if we subtract out like this, essentially we are wiping this out. This becomes 0. So it's just 2x on that side all by itself equals 10 minus 2 equals 8. So that's where we stand right now. But we still have that 2 attached to that x right over here. So let's do this. Let's divide by 2. And if I did it on the left, I got to do the same thing on both sides. So now I wiped this out completely. We're left with just x on that side. And here's our answer. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So there's our final answer, and there's my explanation of how I solved that in 54 seconds. Thanks for watching, and goodbye. So I'm imagining this would be good for, especially with this new crazy Common Core math that happens, we have to understand how the kids got to where they've achieved to. So this way they can explain their process through it. You probably won't be able to hear audio today because of the way I'm connected through here, which goes to here, which goes to there. So it's normally you'd hear it through the speaker built in on the iPad. But my voice is talking now, and I'm walking you through it. And you can see you can use the scrubber bar at the bottom to go forwards and backwards in time. You can give it a title up top. I'll just call it Math Demo. Done.
You can see that the microphone is at the top corner. So if you're looking at there's a top right-hand corner, you can see the light bits were changing, so they were getting his voice.
Yeah, that's good in a classroom because if there's a lot of people talking, you want to see if there's a lot of distortion going on. That way you don't spend minutes making a screencast expecting it to work well, and then you play it back and you're like, whoa, there's a lot of noise in this room. You can kind of monitor that ahead of time. Say it again? That's where I'm going next. Yep. So next we go, we've made it. It only exists locally on this device, so that's no good for everybody else. We now want to share it. In the bottom right-hand corner we have the familiar share icon. What it's going to do is send it to the screencast.com servers. And this is free storage. There is no limit of time and no limit of number of saves that you can do. I've been using this one for a while with a lot of students, so that's a good thing. There's no limitations there. I'm probably not connected through Wi-Fi. Yeah, timed out. It's because of how I'm connected here at the conference. But normally back in my classroom, let's share, it would be listed as a recorded video up top here. And then I wish I had a demonstration in here from the past.
It will show just the icon of exactly the map. You'll see like the number on the top. And then you can share it out. You can email it to yourself.
Yeah, there's three ways to do it. You can email, it's not going to go. You can email, you can tweet it, and you can grab the URL, the link to it. My preference is usually grabbing the link because then I'll switch over to the Edmodo app because we use Edmodo with all the classes, and I'll stick it into a post and I'll put it there so the kids have access to it there. But if this is maybe something I'm making, let's say for a teacher or a parent specifically, just one person and not a whole class, I'll use the email feature and it'll use my contacts list in here, and I just send it off as an email to somebody. And they get a link that they can just click on and watch. So it's a link, it's not an attached video file. That's a good thing because you don't want to send attachments with video files because those can be large, those could be blocked. This way you're sending them just a link to a screencast.com website which will host your video there. Question? Actually, it is an MP4 file. Yeah, I think when you're on the browser, you can right-click and say Save As, and it'll save it as an MP4 file. Many of the sites let you do that. That's right. Once you get it off of the iPad by sharing it on their hosting service, then it's on the cloud, so you can go directly from your laptop, open it up in Chrome or Safari, right-click, save file as, and you have it as an MP4 file. But that's wait till you see more. You might want to do that method with another app that I show you, because Explain Everything lets you save directly out to the camera roll, which gives you more options. So I'm starting with the basic one here. This is for simplicity, but not for full feature.
This is more like elementary. Sarah says that she uses it.
I was just going to say, this is one that I use with my students who are fourth graders. It's very easy, self-explanatory. They go through, they give their examples, they show what they're doing, their work, and they're sharing it out with a small group, and then we're able to use those URLs to just throw it up on the smartboard, and then it's their explanation right there. Mm-hmm. So there's no stage fright of them talking about it's already done. They've already talked about it.
And the other benefit here of this app is there are no logins. So you can literally hand it to a kid, hit draw and record, and they can record it, they can upload it, and then they just have to know how to get that file to the teacher. In most cases, for me, it's Edmodo is the simplest way. But I know some elementary schools, the teacher has email set up on here to just email the teacher. So the kids hit the button, put in Mrs. Jones, her email pops up, and they click send. So she just receives emails. And that's how you, okay. And that's good when there's no accounts. Say it again?
Do they have an archive of other people's things?
No, this is meant to be private in that sense where it's the, it's like comparing it to a YouTube video, it would be the unlisted mode. You know, it's anybody can get to it, but it's a very obscure URL that no one's going to find through a Google search.
So you can search math problem and this will pop up.
Right. Because of parental concerns, that'll come up. You know, if a parent says, I don't want my child, especially if they took a picture of themselves and put it on there, I don't want anybody else to find it. And I can't guarantee nobody else will find it, but they're not going to type in a Google search and find it because it's not indexed by Google. It's a total randomized string of probably 70 or 80 characters. So if you have the link, you can get to it, but otherwise it's like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, I have a couple other questions.
Yes.
You have to draw and speak at the same time. Just do it all as one continuous recording. You draw out your problem or draw out your...
You can do that
Yeah.
before you hit record. Yep. I call that setting the stage. I might actually do this part first, you know, and once it's drawn out, now I'll hit, it's probably the projector.
Yesterday. My students have a hard time sometimes drawing and writing at the same time.
Is it hot?
They're like, okay, let me just get it on here first and then I'll talk about it. So that's why I tell them, draw it out first and then hit record and tell me what you did.
Yeah, so you can set that stage, then hit record. With this one, you cannot pause. With the other apps I'm going to show you, you can. You can pause, catch your breath, look at your outline, and come back and resume. And the viewer will not even know that you paused while you go. But this app doesn't have the pause capability. Just kind of starting you off with the simplest one. Yes?
I've used it with my high school students.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a biology teacher. If I'm grading the lab and I see that they really messed up on a graph or something,
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a screenshot of it.
Sure.
And then I'll go through and record myself showing them how to fix it and what they did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll send them that link through Moodle.
Okay.
So they get the feedback. Nobody else sees, you know, but they know what's going on.
Sure. And which app do you use for that?
I've used Show Me just to do it quickly, but
Okay.
I like to explain everything a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah. Explain Everything is the one I'm going to be going to in a little bit. That one is what I call the full-featured one. It's tough to jump into that right off the bat because there is so much to get lost in. But for $3, it's worth it because you can add a lot more functionality that this one here doesn't allow you to do.
And then your prizes today, the little document camera that you use.
That's right.
Snag it here to record it.
That ties into it very nicely, yeah. All right, so we looked at our first workflow, case study workflow. Next one I want to show you is annotating an image. And okay, this is the snow measurement one I want to show you. I'm going to again use Screencast for this one. We'll relate this back to a current event, which is always a good thing to do. So back to Screencast, draw and record. I want to wipe that canvas clean. This time though, I'm going to add in a picture from my camera roll. So I'm going here to the bottom left-hand corner and choosing it from my library. And the one I want is this one. And this is a picture of my two kids standing in front of where the sidewalk would be. So just to give you a reference of how high that is there. And of course, you could get a ticket if you don't shovel your sidewalks, but I think that's
This
a little...
is my house. He keeps telling me that. I'm not shoveling it.
Yeah, that's...
I'll take the ticket.
It's probably about 4.5, 5 feet of snow right there, yeah, where I stuck the shovel in. So
And
my
my
idea for this is talking about units of measurement. Would it be more appropriate to measure the height of that snow in feet, yards, or miles? So for an elementary school kid that's just learning about concepts like that. So that's what I'll show you what this one meant. Yeah, that's right. Using metric. Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna, before I start, I'm gonna change my color here to yellow, so it stands out there. All right, so I'm gonna hit record, and here we go. Spur of the moment. I don't even know what I'm gonna say yet. All right, hi boys and girls. Remember we talked about units of measurement? Well, this is a relatively new picture I just took in the past couple of days, and I want you to look at the height here. This is the driveway, and this is the surface of the snow. So what we're measuring here is the distance between those two. Now we have a couple of options here. I want you to, for homework, come in tomorrow and tell me, are we measuring this? What would make the most sense? In feet, in yards, or in miles? You remember we talked about different units of measurement there. So for this example, would that be feet, yards, or miles? On the other side, I'm going to change to my green pen here. Let's go with something a little bit maybe smaller in here. If I can use, let's see if I can zoom in. No, this one I can't zoom in. I'm going to circle here the glove on Owen's hand. Owen's hand has a glove. Would we measure that in inches, feet, or yards? He wanted to measure how long is that glove on his hand, inches, feet, or yards. So let's do the yellow one, and let's do the green one, and we'll talk about that when we start class tomorrow, if we have school tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.
So you can see like Rob's making mistakes as he's talking about it because he's clearly winging without a script.
Yep,
But
that's what you do.
realistic. I mean,
Yes.
you're going to have those issues. When I first started, I was all paranoid. I heard a train in the background, the doorbell ringing, the phone rang. Please stop the phone. I have to do it again. I recorded 20 times.
And that's very common. That happens with my grad school students that are 20, 30, 40 years old doing this, all the way down to the 10, 11, 12-year-olds that I teach in middle school. When you first screencast, your natural instinct is, well, that might sound funny. People are going to think I don't know what I'm talking about. It's a natural inclination. But the more you do it, you realize it makes you more human when kids can see you stumble, and as long as it doesn't detract from the overall message. But sneezing is okay, the phone rings is okay. Sarah was talking about her dog would be in the background. The kids would say, oh, you have a dog? What kind of dog do you have? Well, I have a dog too. And that leads to a conversation that might not have otherwise happened. So they see that you're a human being if you make those mistakes. And TechSmith had a really good image, I wish I could find it on one of their blogs, about Morgan Freeman. They had a picture and they said, every screencast doesn't have to sound like you are Morgan Freeman. You don't have to have that kind of voice. So break that habit right off the bat. Don't try to be a perfectionist and do that. And speaking of perfectionists, I had one boy that was an 8th grader that what should have been a 2 class period long project took him about 3 weeks. And I made the mistake of not realizing why he wasn't getting the screencast done. He was coming after school, he was coming during lunch periods. It was because he kept recording saying, hi, this is, I forget his name, this is Sam. And, oh, okay, no. Hi, this is Sam. Okay, I don't like that either. And he kept going over and over again to the point where he just wouldn't get it done. He was so afraid because we share our projects on Edmodo, so 180 kids in my classes are going to see it all. He wanted to perfect it.
Congratulations, you want a copy of Confusion for Math. Here's everything we need to get started. Read exactly what they have posted. So if
Right.
a screenshot of something, like, no. This is like not back to the PowerPoint days where you read every single word.
You don't have to sound like that.
And tell us what's
Yeah,
happening.
you want to sound natural. You want to have that inflection in your voice. And I worked with my daughter's first and second grade teacher a few years ago. I helped her set up a blog, and I saw the video she made. It was like a 30-second video, and I thought, oh, that was cool. Did you make it in like an hour or so? She goes, no, this took me like 5 hours to make. I said, why did it take you 5 hours? She said, well, I wanted to get the blocks, because it was actually units of measurement, and line them up, and they were a little crooked. And I was afraid that the parents would see that and think that I didn't know that that was crooked, but I was trying to show them you have to line up the blocks straight, because if you do go crooked, it ends up being more blocks. I said, well, that's what you're trying to teach the kids, so do it the wrong way, explain that, and then do it the right way. And she's like, oh yeah, I guess I could have done that. Instead of just starting out with showing the right way, show you the misconceptions first. And I thought, as a parent, I'd like to see that. I check my email. Oh, look, and Mrs. So-and-so sent an email. This is for Oakley's homework tonight. Let me watch this. Okay, so she says kids usually do this, so I should watch this when I'm working with her. And then this is the right way to do it. Okay, so that makes sense. So, in 2-3 minutes, it's as if I had a one-on-one conversation with that teacher, but that teacher has 20-some kids in the class, 20-some sets of parents. You can't have that phone conversation or email conversation, 20 times. Do it once, put it up where everybody can access, and I think a blog and screencast is a good combination to do that.
The great thing about that teacher was she was retiring. She knew she
That was her retaring year, yep, and she was willing to take that on.
She really wanted to try,
Yep.
boost those last things up. And we all work with people who are afraid of technology, who don't use it out, and don't do different things. I'll talk to my father, he's the worst.
Mm-hmm. But it's baby steps.
I get a text message, come on, you're an iPhone.
Yep. That reminds me of a really good YouTube video, but that's for another time I'll share. But it's about that. It's a father that's like sends a question like, how come my tabs are running slow? And then the pan zooms out and there's like 50 tabs open, and that's why everything's running slow. It's a dollarshaveclub.com if you want to look at that. They do a subscription for shaving. It's like really cheap too. But they come up with the best YouTube videos that go viral, which helps promote their service, which is how I learned about it, and now I'm a customer. So if you're interested in that, for men and women, dollarshaveclub.com. That's our little promotion for the moment right now. All right, so back to my outline here. I had to mention that because that was a funny thing you reminded me of. So workflow number 3. Any questions on 1 and 2 so far? Because we're going to move away from the basic screen jump, and we're going to get a little bit more in-depth with the next ones. Okay. So workflow number 3 is sorting words. We're going to do the T-chart with text and web pictures using EDUcreations or EDUcreations. Now, EDUcreations just launched version 2.0, so it looks a little bit different for those of you that have been using it for a while. Version 2.0 has some really neat features. It is a free service, but you can buy into it, your district could buy into it, and have accounts for everybody and do a lot of internal sharing that way. So I do like their concept of what they're going with, but it does cost money. So it's something to explore if you really like this program and want to do some more with it. So the sorting words. Let me minimize here, get back to maximize that.
That donors choose for, if there's those apps up there. I have some friends that I work with. They say, oh, we really want to have this for the school, but it costs us a lot of money. districts are always having their funds. Lots of those choose or some of those grant sites are really effective.
It's a great way to get parents involved because parents say, I want to help you, but I can't just give you a $20 bill. How can I do that? So setting up something like that gives a way for people to kick in a few bucks, and if a lot of people put a little bit in, it really adds up tremendously. All right, so they've redesigned it now. I have drafts and I have saved, finished ones. So finished project are here. Things I've been working on are here. I was playing around with something 14 hours ago. So since I'm making a brand new one, I hit the plus sign in the upper left-hand corner. And, oh, currently limited to one saved lesson draft at a time. Okay, so never mind. We're going to work on that draft then. That's a limitation then of the free version. You get one draft that you get to be working on at any time, which is fine because I can just keep rewriting over that draft. Some familiar things here. You have colors up top. You have your pen tool, which I think if I touch it again gives me, no, it's just the pen tool, and then you can choose your colors. Eraser tool on the other side, so your two main controls up top, picking your colors. You have, if you're adding something like additional pages, this time instead of doing the scroll up and down with two fingers, like that, like the clear thing on the overhead projector like I showed you last time, now you add individual slides. So imagine it being more like a PowerPoint, if you will. There's an individual slide you can go to backwards and forwards to navigate. And then this button here gives you additional options to choose a background. So if you want to have line paper or graph paper or a coordinate grid, that might be helpful too, especially if you're doing some mathematical stuff. All right, so I'm going to set the stage here now, just like I did here. I'm going to set up a T-chart. I'm going to have a word bank on the side here, and we're going to learn about adjectives and verbs. So I'm going to go to the next page. So we start with a blank canvas. I'll make my T-chart. And I'm going to put my words on it. Now here's something the other one didn't have, the ability to add text from the keyboard, because my finger handwriting is not that good. Probably many of us would say the same kind of thing. So rather than scribble it in with your hand, using the text tool, which this app has, tap anywhere to add text. I'll tap right there, and I'll say these are going to be adjectives. And if I'm not happy with colors and things like that, you can see the black there is the color, so you can change that if you like. You have the plus and the minus for size, and once I let go of that, I can then move it around and place it where it needs to be. So I'll leave it right there. I'm going to also add some text over here, and I'll do this one as verbs. You can see it saved the last color I used to, which is nice for continuity. And now I'm going to make my word bank on the left-hand side somewhere down here so that we can have the kids move them over. So again, using the text tool. This time I'll switch though, and I'll make the words purple. And let's see, what did I want to do? Hungry, and then done. So that word is floating all by itself. I'm going to do 4 words here. See if I remember which ones I was going to go with. I'm going to add another word. Done. Last word. Maybe you can see where I'm going with this here. So this is my word bank on the side here. And this is very similar to what I saw my daughter do last year in 2nd grade. So this, I'm basing this off of that. The kids will normally figure out not only is it an adjective or a verb, but also give a picture that describes it too. So when they're doing vocabulary terms, it's good to have the text and also the picture together. This app has the ability to do a Google image search right inside of the app, so you don't have to go outside the app, save it to your camera roll, and then import it. You can do it all staying within inside the app. So I will now begin my recording, and the record button here is in the upper left-hand side. And hello everybody, Mr. Z here, and we're talking again about adjectives and verbs. I'm going to use my text selection tool and move it. Now hungry, if I'm hungry, does that mean it's a verb like an action word, or it's an adjective? If you remember, it's an adjective because it's describing how I'm feeling. I'm feeling hungry. Now tied to that is, if you're hungry, what do? Well, you eat. And eat is a do word. It's something you do. It's an action you take, so that's why we classify it as a verb. If you are tired, again, that's an adjective. That's an explanation about how I'm feeling. If you're tired, then you need to do that, which is sleep. So now that we put those 4 words in, let's put in some pictures to go along with them. Now notice I hit the plus sign, and it paused automatically. The recording is paused while you add content to the page. I like this because why should the viewers sit through me looking for an image when that's something that is maybe boring to watch? So this way, it paused automatically. I can go off to the web now, which is, I think as long as my Wi-Fi is connected here, I can go to the web symbol, and it lets me do, oh, that's not it. That's a different one. I thought they didn't change that though. Image. There we go. I went to image, and then at the bottom we have search. So essentially it's going to do a Google image search. So if I say hungry, go. And it does have some sort of a filter built in. I've never found inappropriate pictures, because kids will try that and see if they can find stuff that way.
I'm not gonna lie. As a speech person, I'm always looking for pictures to describe things for kids. I put something in. It was like some obnoxious woman dressed as a banana, and it was really inappropriate. I'm like, let's put the banana away quickly.
Yeah, user beware, because it can't. Let's try food. It might be because I'm not connected to the Wi-Fi, or it's taken so long to find a picture it just times out. But in my classroom, when I do this, you can search, and it'll give you a Google image search of a bunch of pictures, and you can choose it, and it'll drop it right in. So I won't waste our time on that. But you can see the idea there. It was the plus sign, it was the middle one here for photograph, and then at the bottom there to search, and that takes you to the web. So let's try one more time, see if we get anything. Yeah, it's because the Wi-Fi is less than 1 megabit up and down. It's just timing out because it takes forever. But that would be your process there, and you would drop it in. I would drop in all 4, and then I would resume recording like this. And now, uh-oh. All right, and now that you see all 4 pictures in there, that is our process. You're going to do that now with nouns and adjectives for homework. So I hope that makes sense. If not, always let me know. And stop. All right, so 56 seconds long. Now we have to go here back to the main menu. It's trying to catch up now from that web search. We can say save as a finished video. It does give you some ability to put in a title, and then a description is optional. Publish, you get to decide. Share it with the entire community, meaning it's a public video that anybody could find on the website EDUcreations.com. Or if you want to just keep it private to your own class, you can mark it as private. My recommendation usually is to go with the other option, because then you don't have to worry about logins and accounts to create to get into it. As long as it's not going to show student faces or identify kids and it's not sensitive information, I always recommend make it that way. You can categorize it just so that people have a heads up on where it's from. This is just if it was a public video. I'm just making this up as I go. And then save. And what it's doing right now by saving, you see the symbol right there, it's uploading it to the EDUcreations.com website, where I as the teacher have an account established, and I can see my dashboard of all the videos that I've made. That way I can access it on a desktop or a laptop. I don't have to be just tied to the iPad. And anything you have made as well from the past, let's see if I can share this out. This is an old one that I made. Will it let me do that? Yeah.
The nice thing is you can search.
There it is there.
Things that would have already been done. So when you're looking at, okay, I have a kid in my room right now, 4th grade, looking at algebra, let's pull up what's already been done. So you can pop it into your screencast. You can sort of share that back and forth. So
I'm going to hit select up in the upper right hand corner here, right there, and notice then.
When you first started this program, there was only a few things in there.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
This here is one I've made in the past, 8 months ago. If I use that, that's the universal symbol for export or save out to. Notice you get some options here. I can copy the link, I can copy embed code, I can open it in other apps. However, save video looks like, oh cool, I can save it to my camera roll. But you try that, and of course they're going to say, nope, you got to buy the Pro version for 99 bucks a year to do that. With the Pro version, you get stuff like exporting videos. You can import additional content on your screen, save unlimited drafts, 5 gig of storage space, and then students get accounts as well, so that you can track their progress when they watch stuff too. And there's even more features too there that you can check out with that button. But don't be discouraged. 99 bucks sounds a lot, but one of the next steps I'm going to show you is only a $3 app, and that lets you save out to the camera roll. So that's kind of their competition. This company's competition is Explain Everything app for those that want to save to the camera roll. So don't feel like in order to make that happen, you got to spend 100 bucks. We can make that happen and not spend the money. All right, so that was that workflow demonstration for our T-chart. And what's that? Okay, so we're getting close to the midpoint. Let's do maybe number 4, and then we'll take a little break after this next one. So presenting PowerPoint slides. How many people present PowerPoint slides? Right? I figure that's a pretty common thing that we do. This would be a way for you to make, because I get this question all the time, how do I make a video out of my PowerPoint slides? And not just a video of the slides themselves, but me talking and maybe even highlighting and drawing on top of the slides. So I asked, my next question to that person that says that is, do you have an iPad? Because if you do, you can do what I'm about to do, which is make a screencast out of it. So we're going to use the Explain Everything app for that. This is now becoming one of the industry standard apps because it's gained in popularity and can do so much, and it's only $3, so it's a good investment. They've upgraded it to version 2.2, I think it is now. That's what the icon now looks like. And as of last week, it is now available, which is the first app that can do this, on phones. So if you have an iPhone on the small screen, of course the interface looks a little different because you have less real estate here, but you can get Explain Everything on your iPhone, which is kind of neat because in the past you could only do this kind of stuff on the larger iPad mini and the iPad, full-size iPad. So consider that too. That's another option if you only have an iPhone and you want to make a screencast. So we'll go ahead and launch that. And I'm going to, this is the main page here. I'm making a brand new project, so I have the plus sign up in the upper right-hand corner. You get to choose a color template that you want to work with. Uh-oh, it's not showing up for you guys. Let's see, once it comes up for me, there it goes. And this is the blank canvas. Now again, bells and whistles. Look across that left-hand side. We have a lot of tools here, and across the bottom a lot of tools. But all those tools give you some great functionality. I'll go through them piece by piece. This is our selection tool. It's basically the mouse pointers. You can grab stuff that's on the canvas and move it around. So it's the move around tool. We have our drawing tool, our pencil tool, and with all of these tools, touch it a second time and you get some additional features. You can have different pen tips and different widths for it. The next one down is your shapes tool, which could be a series of shapes you can draw. You can even have shadows on those shapes and allow borders. So since I'm on the arrow, I'll show you drawing out an arrow looks like that. Touch it again, draw another arrow. Selection tool, if I want to delete it, delete, tap it, delete. Alright, so that's our shapes tool. Underneath that we have the familiar text tool. You get to choose from a variety of different fonts. Font sizes, borders, again, more feature than you might actually need, but some people really need that Comic Sans font or whatever it is, and this helps you get to that. This is called the Insert an Object tool, where you get a lot of capabilities here. Although it's, yeah, for you guys it's not coming up there. Let's try it again. Seeing it on my iPad, there it is. You can insert, it's going away. It must be because of the way I'm presenting here. It's like a layer on top of the screen. If I move around, maybe. Well, I'll just explain what it is. You can put in a video clip, put in a photograph, put in a live web browser, which I'll do in a later demonstration, put in documents. That's what I'm going to do for this PowerPoint slide. So it's your way of getting files, basically. Files or web browsers or content that you want to put on the canvas. Underneath it is the delete button. This one is the laser pointer tool. So you can touch and hold on the screen, which is helpful for drawing the viewer's eyes to it, especially if you're teaching reading and you're reading across the page. Take a picture of the book and then use your finger to show line by line where you currently are. If you double tap that again, though, you can get different pointers on there too. So if you want to make it look like you're using a Windows machine, you get the nice little pointer that looks like that. Or even the finger pointer, which kids like this one because it really draws your attention to wherever you're highlighting on the screen. The inspector tool is a way to layer things. So if you have multiple things on there, you can choose what's going to be in front and what's going to be behind. The undo tool and the redo tool, again, I can undo those arrows I did and redo that, so going forwards and backwards in time. The zoom tool, this is the presentation mode tool. It gives you a reduced feature set, so if you're presenting in front of a class and you don't want the whole toolbar there, it just gives you the more commonly used tools at a glance. And then you have your color palettes to choose from. We have our slide navigation across the bottom. Currently I have one slide, but I can add another one. So now you see I have different slides up there. That'll make more sense when you see my PowerPoint slides too, because you can rearrange them. Your record button there, your time code, and by touching that time code, it brings up a little scrubbing bar. So as I talk and draw things, you'll see indications on the timeline for that. I can re-record over stuff too, which is cool, because if the phone rang and I want to re-record over a segment, you can rewind or fast forward and record right over it too. The bottom right-hand corner has some export features. I can export out, this is doing the same thing, as an image. That's what that would be for. This would be exporting it out as a movie. Yeah, see, it shows up as it goes away. And then saving your project so that you can work on it later. So you can have a continuous projects going on. And there's a lot of export capabilities so that kids on other iPads can continue on a project that somebody else started, which might be good for collaborative work. Or you can start a template yourself and give it to the kids and say, I want you to fill in the blanks, that kind of thing. So you have the stage set for them. So now that you know a little bit about all the interface there, let's pull in the PowerPoint slides. I'm going to go to this button here where I get to insert a file. Let's see if this comes up. Now across the bottom, look at all the places where I can insert files from. That's why this one is really king when it comes to importing and exporting. Not just my camera roll, but I can grab stuff from Dropbox, Evernote, Google Drive. There's even more options there too that show up. For me it showed up Box, OneDrive, some Chinese letters in there, I don't know what they are. So a lot of places, yeah, like that. So there's a lot of different places you can get stuff from. I did set up last night my Google Drive account so that we should be able to get in and see my stuff inside of Google Drive. For us, that's been our preference for stuff because all of our kids have Google Apps for EDU accounts, so they all have Google Drive accounts. So we call that our cloud storage. Rather than storing stuff on the shared iPads that all the kids use, we store finished projects in their Google Drive accounts. Then they have the permanent copy, and they then can selectively share it out to classmates or the teacher when they need to. So because of the Wi-Fi here, of course, it's reliant upon that because this is cloud-based. But what would happen, maybe this is a good time to take a break. Eventually my documents are going to show up and I'm going to select a PowerPoint file that I put in there so that you could see what that looks like.
First part of technology conferences when none of the technology works because they have poor Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and you know what, let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break and I'm going to use my phone, I think, as the hotspot for this, and I'll get better Wi-Fi in the iPad. So it is 9:40 now. Let's come back at maybe 9:45ish. All right, guys, we'll get started back up again here. And if you want to just...
Any questions before Rob gets going again? Anything you can get real quick like that?
Anything good? All right, what I did is I connected my iPad to my phone. Verizon lets me use it as a hotspot, so I have more reliable Wi-Fi now there. And if you pull that door so it's not so echoey. And so on the screen here, you can see I've gone into my Google Drive account right within the app. Get that out of the way there. All right, so Google Drive tab at the bottom. I went into a folder I've made. I have a couple of pieces of content in there. So I'm now going to load up that PowerPoint file, which is a couple slides long. And as you see, as I scroll down and show you, there's different slides there. I made, I think, 5 slides in there. If I'm happy with that and that's the one I want, I'm going to officially pick it by hitting choose up at the top corner. And now it loads it in, and each slide is a separate page. That gives me the ability to record my information one slide at a time. And I like that. Yes? That was PowerPoint. Well, actually, it was. I only use Google Slides now. I refuse to use PowerPoint. So this app only imports PPT files. So what I did with my Google Slides is I did File, Download as PPT, and I converted it. Yes, so you can do that. I would surmise in future releases they will make that be another choice as Google Slides. As of now, it's not there, but most people are using PDFs or PPT files. So those are the two that that for now do work for sure. So we pulled that in, and notice across the bottom left-hand side it says Slide 2 of 5. That's kind of nice because now if I decided I wanted to rearrange stuff, I could. That first slide is blank, so I don't want that one. So I'm going to tap onto that. Let's see, where's my editing controls? Is it touch and hold? Yes, touch and hold. You get some options there. The options are the X is to delete. 2X means to, anybody want to guess?
Duplicate.
Duplicate, right? Make a copy of it. Some people think it's scaling. It's not zooming in. It's actually making another copy of it. And then changing the color palette on it, which I'll do that because I think, yeah. So you get to pick, maybe I want a black background instead, and it would do that. So I don't want that one, so I'm going to delete that first one. And deleting a slide cannot be undone, so it confirms it. So here we are back again. And let's say, you know what, that second slide really shouldn't be there. I'll touch and hold it, and that second slide should be, let's see, how do I move? Touch and hold. And then I can move it maybe to the end. And this one I want to be the second slide, so I'll rearrange that to there. So it's nice that you can rearrange your content that way. Now, because they're separate slides, my voice is going to be recorded individually on each one. So I'll hit the record button down here and give it permission to use the microphone. All right, we are now recording. Hello everybody, Mr. Z here, and I'm going to show you a guide to getting started with Edmodo. So that was just 7 seconds. That's all I want to be heard on this particular slide. If I hit play, well, you're not going to hear it again because I don't have speakers, but if I hit the time code, right where the time code is down here, it brings this up and you can visually see my talking right there. So that's there. If I made a mistake, I say, you know what, I made a mistake midway through, I'll start recording there. It says start recording there will replace the existing recording. After that, I'll say yes. And I'll say our Edmodo slide. Thank you for joining us for this presentation. So I re-recorded over it. What was that?
You can also trim there too.
Yes. Trimming, I'm not sure in this app to let you trim.
Yeah, I thought that you could. You see how like the gap was there?
I don't think you can trim on this one.
Okay.
You might be thinking of Snagit where you can do trimming. Yeah, this one you can't. But you can re-record over it. So if the phone rang or if you sneezed, just rewind back to where you started, hit record, and you'll record right over it. So this app allows you to do that. The previous ones I've shown you so far do not let you do that. So that's one great feature that this has. So if I'm ready now to talk about the next slide, I go on to slide 2. And that's not going to make sense, so I'm going to skip that. Go to slide 3. All right, and there's got a lot of information here. So this is where I think the laser pointer tool will come in handy. So let me get the timeline out of the way, and I'll hit record. Now in this slide, you are seeing a lot of information. I want to kind of point out what's happening up here at the top. This is where you're going to go quite often. This little icon of 9 squares there, that's called the Apps Launcher. You're going to find a lot of great information there to do some of the third-party apps we've been using in class. The other part I'll highlight up here is this area. This is more of our latest posts where we can put in a note, like this will be a post of the class like Mr. Day did right here. An alert, which only teachers can do, that would be like Twitter-style announcements that are 140 characters or less. They are always bold too, so they stand out. And then assignments. If you're a student, you're not going to see this, but teachers will see assignment. That's a place where you add them in, and they can be dropped right into the gradebook nicely too, which I think is very convenient. Another thing I want to highlight here is embedded video clips. If I attach a video file, usually MP4 files or MOV files, Edmodo will now, this is relatively new, will embed that as a playable video right within there. In other words, I don't have to go put this on YouTube first or Google Drive first and then bring in a link. I can just do one-step upload of a video file right off my hard drive or my iPad, and then it's playable right from there. So I think that's a nice new feature in the past couple of weeks that they came up with. All right, that was a little longer. I talked there for 1 minute and 12. So let's go on now to the last slide. And this would be, I won't do it, but you get the idea. I could go through it bullet by bullet, talk about what's there, and you'd be able to have your audio recorded there. Now let's say I do this to all 4 slides and I'm done. I want to make a movie out of this. Bottom right hand corner, I hit the export button, and for you guys it's gray. For me it's showing it on here. I would go movie to camera roll, or YouTube if I wanted to. And this step takes a little bit of time because what it's going to do is process all of that laser pointer I was doing, my voice, any other drawings I put in there, and it's going to make a video out of it. So this time varies. If you did do a lot of motion, it's going to take a lot more time. If I put a video clip in here that had 30 frames per second video, that's a lot of motion happening. That would take even more time. So I made it very simplistic now just to show you the processing. You can see it's actually doing the laser pointer in there, so you see it all happening. And so this is the point where you usually go get a cup of coffee, or if it's a lengthy screencast, you let it go overnight, and in the morning it's processed and done. But this can take a little bit of time. The newer iPads tend to go much quicker. I saw iPad 5, the newest one out, goes like in a quarter of the time compared to the iPad 3 that I'm using. Yes? Yes, very good. It might even be in here. I might be able to find that in the tips. There it is right there. The Explain Everything compressor, available in the Mac App Store. That's only for those of you that have a Mac desktop or laptop, though. It doesn't work on Windows. You can export your project file to your desktop or laptop, and that has a lot more horsepower, so that can really chew through the processing much quicker. So for those hardcore users of this product, you might want to invest that extra $10 in that, and that will speed up your process. Did you use that? Or did you? Yeah, it's I guess it's for those die-hard users that really use it for lengthy screencasts. It'll help offload the processing time so you don't have to wait as long. But as you can see, I'm done. Movie saved to camera roll. So now when I go exit out of this app and I go to the camera roll, we will find it under the last thing. There it is, 1 minute and 31 long. Now I apologize because again I can't play the audio because of the way I'm hooked up here. But you would hear my voice talking through it. But any slide, here's the trick, any slide that does not have voice talking, like the second one that's about to come up, this one here, I didn't talk on this one. So it's going to be staying on the screen for about 5 seconds and then it'll move on. So keep that in mind. Any slide that you don't talk on will still be included, and it might confuse some people because they're seeing it and they're not hearing anything. So keep that in mind. If you're not going to talk on a slide, sometimes I say just delete that slide out. This slide I did do some talking on, so that's why it's included. And then as I fast forward, yeah, there you go. You see the motion happening on there. You would be hearing my voice going through it. So that's a way to make a video out of PowerPoint slides, or a PDF, or a Word document, or you name it, or even a photograph or a video clip. So that was that workflow. I believe the next one is more of something I do with my grad students here, which is giving feedback. Let's see, is that the one? All right, so we did number 4. We're going for number 5 now, annotating a PDF document. This time, though, I'm going to use the picture-in-picture live camera feature, which is something that this app has and not many do, using Explain Everything. So here's the workflow on that. Let's go back to QuickTime. All right, take us to that app again, Explain Everything. I want to get back to the main menu. You guys can't see it because my picture's over, but in the bottom right-hand corner, little home button there. I'll say sure, we'll save that. I'll call it test 7654321. And it saves it out as an editable project later on. So if I want to come back to it, I still can work on it later. Okay, so make it a brand new one. This time around, though, I'm going to hit the second one in, the plus. This is making a new project, but making it off of a document. And so it says right off the bat, where do you want to grab your document from? I'm going to grab it down here from Google Drive. And there we go. Oh, it's on my screen here. Let's see if it comes up for you guys. I see 2 documents. Yeah, I see. I'll hold it this way. I see my 2 documents there. I'm going to tap the red one, which is a PDF document that I've put in that folder. There it goes. Now it's up there. And this is, we looked at this earlier, one of the resources. This is a 2-page document. So let's say I want to explain this to my grad students that are just starting out with flipped learning. I'll say choose it, upper corner. It now loads it into the canvas. I believe on 2 separate pages. And if you don't want it to be 2 separate pages, you can change that. It could be loading it all up on one screen. That's under the preferences, under the main menu area. You can decide what happens when you have a multiple-page PDF or a multiple-page PowerPoint file. So it did mark it in. There's our navigation there. It's not showing up for you guys. There it is, showing us our 2 separate pages there. So here's the fancy part. I'm going to add myself. Ignore what you're seeing in the bottom right-hand corner. That's just my laptop putting that in. I'm going to use the iPad camera to put that in, a picture-in-picture window. So I'm going to use them on this side over here. And yep, it's not showing up for you guys. For me, though, it says new browser file, existing photo video. I'm going to put in a new video, which sounds kind of odd because I want to use a webcam, a picture-in-picture cam, but you got to call it a new video. And it says it would like to access my camera. I'll hit OK. And there we go. It's now using the built-in iPad camera. It's using the back camera, which I don't want to use. I want to use the front camera in this particular case. We put it like that. I like my little, by the way, I didn't mention in this workshop, this little stand right here. It's the Anchor stand, $10 on Amazon, and it is adjustable. So you can have it at a steep angle or a tall angle. Very compact. I throw at least one in my laptop bag there. And it makes a nice stand for whatever brand, tablet, phone, whatever you have, because it's adjustable. You're not locked into a specific size. All right, so I have that there. That's kind of big. I'm going to pinch with my fingers, put it smaller, and I'll move it. Let's go in the upper right-hand corner this time there. All right, so now as I record my screencast, I have myself in it, and I can make it more personable. So let's record some information here on the first slide. Here we go. Hi, everybody. It's Rob Z here. I got to look at the lens of the camera right there. And I want to introduce to you guys the flipped learning document that I found very helpful when I was just getting into this. I'm going to scroll up here a little bit and show you the part that I find the most important part about the flipped learning concept. And that would be, and then it's changed to my red marker here, this part about direct instruction moving from the group learning space to the individual learning space. If you look at that very long definition, and it is quite complex, I think that's the key piece there to keep in mind as you go. You don't always have to do direct instruction through flip. You still can talk in front of your class. It's not like you have to give that up, so don't feel uncomfortable. But a majority of it, you have to think, do I need to be doing this live in front of kids now? Or would my time better be spent talking to the kids, one-on-one or in small groups, while they watch what you're watching now, a screencast, to offload some of that direct instruction work and use the technology tools wisely to do a new kind of task in the classroom that we previously couldn't do when we didn't have all this technology around us. So that is the piece I want you to take a look at there. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. So that was 1 minute and 4 long. Now when I publish this one out, I want you to see how long it's going to take. I'm going to say camera roll again. It's going to take, well, I guess it's not too bad. I was expecting that number to be closer to a half hour. But as I'm talking there, that's 30 frames per second of movement. So because of that, it kind of bogs it down a bit, and it'll take more time to process. Sometimes, yeah, if you like make a funny sneeze, you'll see yourself sneezing in slow motion, so it's kind of fun to watch. But it'll go through. Now I just did this on one slide. Imagine if this was multiple slides, it would take, times 5 or times 10, however many slides you have. But just so you know, that is a possibility that you can do. You can put yourself in there, make it a little bit more personable, which you couldn't do with the previous two apps. And for $3, now you have the ability to make screencasts that you don't have to spend $99 like that last one to do something similar.
Question.
Yes.
When you circled that section of text,
Mm-hmm.
if you then
Oh, if I moved it?
does it keep the box you put to, or does the box just stay the same size while the paper gets smaller?
If it doesn't do it by default, you can make it do that, because you can say what I drew, I want that to be locked onto that layer.
Okay.
I think it's a triple tap.
Okay.
Triple tap, and then you'll be able to lock it onto there, because you're right. I might want that squiggle line to be tied into that there, so that when I move the main canvas, it doesn't go with it. But triple tapping does stuff. Double tapping does stuff. So there's a lot of manipulations there once you learn the program. And speaking of that, I'm going to cancel this here. I want to show you where I learned all that stuff. Back on the main page here, in the upper right-hand corner under the information, I believe it is, they have video tutorials you can watch. But I like the iBook guide. That will take you to a free iBook that they made, which really serves two purposes. It shows you the power of iBooks, and at the same time the power of making stuff and explain everything and putting it into an iBook. So it's a great free book that you can download and watch in the Apple iBooks app, and it's chock full of videos. It's you can read through the text descriptions, but for every text paragraph there's a video to go with it. So it's a multiple page document. So I think that's one of the quickest ways to get started. This, I believe, leads you back to their website, which is explaineverything.com. I think that's what it is. You just Google it and you find it. And another thing to note about this app is it is cross-platform. It works on iPad and now iPhone. Where is it? Right here, iPhones. Also works on Android tablets, and I think there's a version for Windows tablets too. So that's why this one is kind of the industry standard right now, is that it's cross-platform and it can do a lot for $3 or $2 or whatever it is on the particular app store. So I'm pretty happy with using Explain Everything for a lot of the different iPad-based projects that we do. So any questions on that workflow or anything so far? Yes?
One quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the slideshow, is there a way to adjust the amount of time the slides stay on the video? For instance, I may be talking, but I want to delete something a little bit.
So on the slide, you are going to include your voice?
Yeah, but I want to
Okay.
extend the slide longer than, or shorter than, or longer than I would.
I got it. So if you're talking for 10 seconds, but you want to have it on for 30, the only workaround I know of is to keep recording and not say anything. And that could be tricky in a room full of kids, but if you record audio on the slide, the length of that slide is determined by the length of that audio recording. So that will, if you don't, it is set to, let's switch back to it, it is set to 5 seconds as the default, I believe, but I think you could change that. Let's show you here. Under the gear icon, the second one over on the right-hand side there, we got a lot of different preferences here you can go for. I know it's under one of these here. Let's see if I can find where they put it now. Export. There you go. So export slides without recordings right here. If I did not record any audio right now, it's set to 5 seconds, but I could change it, I guess, to 15, 10, or 5, or 0 would not include it. So in your case there, if it was something like a longer time, just leave it running. Leave the recording going without saying anything. Yes? Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Because you can record over, you just like insert right on top of it. Yep. Yes, question? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true. Yep, everybody see what she's saying about that? You just duplicate the slide, and on that duplicated slide, you're not going to make any audio. But then in this area, I would probably go the maximum, just if you wanted that. So in this case, you get, well, it changed for me, but not up there. But you'd get 15 up there. There we go. That's weird. There's like a delay now. But while we're here, I might as well show you some of the other things. This is where I was talking earlier about dividing. If you're inserting any of these documents, you can decide to do that. If you have one of the more expensive styluses, I have a styli, I guess you call it plural. I have the Adonit Jot, so I could turn that on. That connects through Bluetooth, and it's one of the best ones out there. It's not pressure sensitive, so it doesn't know if you're making a wide line or a nice skinny line, but it's great for drawing on your glass screen. Almost feels like you're drawing on a piece of pad of paper. So that one I got there was $79, so it wasn't cheap, but it does work quite well. Not in this app, I haven't used it. I've used it in Penultimate. Anybody use Penultimate? Penultimate's a great handwriting app. If you want to use your iPad like you used to use a piece of paper, Penultimate's a great way to do handwritten text. And Penultimate is owned by Evernote, which means it's tied to your Evernote account. Any Evernote users out there? I can't live without Evernote. That's my place of putting everything, from Wi-Fi passwords to jury duty summons that I know I'll lose, but I can prove that I did jury duty because I didn't lose that paperwork because I have digitally. Anything at all I need to save, I take pictures and throw it into Evernote because that's all searchable text. So if you're using Penultimate to write your notes out, the words you handwrite, those are all searchable text. So you can search keywords down the road later. So it's a really impressive app that it can do that. Exporting options, notice you can choose the resolution you want to go out at. I had it set at the default, but if I went a little bit lower, it would process quicker, or vice versa. Really high quality would take longer. Some recording options you have. For the front and back facing cameras, you can choose the resolution. The other ones really don't apply much to what we're doing. And then all those accounts that you can log in. I did my Google Drive account, so I had access within, but they are adding more at all times. So it's really a great one for importing and exporting, kind of a Swiss Army knife of apps, if you will, for screencasting.
This is $3.
$3, yep. $2.99 in the App Store. Yeah, and it's part of the volume purchasing program. So if you have a bank of iPads, if you purchase 20 or more copies, you get it for half price. So for $1.50, that's a pretty good deal there. All right, so next up is going to be question, Summer? Yes.
Can you track who watches the video?
Not with this, no. Unless you put that, this is just to manufacture your video. Once you have it, maybe you could put it in a place that does track. There's a lot of different services out there. Most of them are paid, though, to do that. Yeah, EDUCanon was another one, and EdPuzzle. Those two I've been playing around with a lot.
Google Classroom, put it as an assignment.
Yep. And for me, I would do that as Edmodo. I put it as an Edmodo assignment. By the way, too, not to sell you guys coming later, but 3 o'clock in the exhibit, in the conference area there, I have a 3 to 4 o'clock presentation on Edmodo. So I'm really going to dig in deep in how we use that. So if you hear me say that a lot here, you can see the in-depth stuff with that later on 3 o'clock today. All right, let me move on here so I don't miss out on the other workflows here. And next thing we're going to...
Just so you know, like he might bring it up.
Yeah.
It's something he really likes.
Yeah, I'm a fanboy of Apple, Edmodo, Google. These are all things that TechSmith products, but I don't get paid for any of them. So somehow I got to change that. I don't know how I can do that. All right, so one that one of my colleagues in our EdTech program did, Ron, he did a great job using Explain Everything to bring in the live browser. So that's the second last one I want to show you here, and then we'll show you Coach's Eye. Switch to here. So one more Explain Everything, brand new, start on the blank canvas. All right, this time around I'm going to hit the plus sign up there, and I apologize because you guys aren't seeing it there, but on my screen I see New Browser. I touch New Browser, and I get a web browser on the screen. So let's say we're going to go to, we'll go to my teacher blog here, and the lesson I'm going to teach is how to subscribe by putting in your email address. So it's going to be, it'll pull up a live web page. And this doesn't work for everything. If you're thinking right off the bat, oh cool, I can record YouTube videos, that doesn't work. If it's flash-based or a video playing, this app won't record that. So it's static images like web pages like this that it would record. So I will now go to record. Hi everybody, it's Rob Z, and I want to show you the subscribe by email is on my web page in the upper right-hand corner. This is the place where you put in your email address, and then it'll ask you to verify it to make sure you're a human entering it and not a robot. And it'll have you confirm it by checking your email. So again, it's in the upper right-hand corner. I think I can draw on top to show you. Yep, right there. That's the place where you will find it. Also, if you're interested to see other presentations and workshops that I've done, click on the navigation up top. Let's see, I gotta double tap, right? Yep. When I double tap on it, I now can touch the buttons on the screen. And this is a Google Doc I made with a lot of the workshops that I teach. So if you are curious to see some of the other stuff you're going to see on the blog, if you just search through it, for example, Socrative would be one that a lot of people are interested in learning more about. Just search that word on my blog and you'll see some presentations you can learn how that can work in your classroom. So that is it. Thank you for watching. And that was 50 seconds. So what I did is I did a screencast, but this time I had a live working web browser that I was recording. Now I could have put that little picture-in-picture window up there too, so you can really get the idea. Now you have the, possibilities are endless. There's a lot of things you can do with this app. All right, the last one we're going to do is more for the sports-orientated, maybe phys ed, maybe for science experiments, maybe for, I've even had a foreign language teacher that said it's real important when you pronounce words to see how the mouth is moving. So she used this app to record someone, played the mouth in slow motion, talked and drew on top of it, called Telestration. You can draw on the screen.
Maybe for like a speech language psychologist.
Yes, that would work too. Yep. A physical therapist, anybody that has to show motion or movement on something. So let's get out of that screen there. So you know, it'll make more sense if I show you a finished product first before we show you the app. So I had some examples of what we did in our classroom with this, the illustration examples. And let's learn about how to do a sit-up properly. So the premise here was kids had to have three things. They had to have narration, they had to have drawing annotations, which would be the circles and arrows on the screen, and they also had to have zooming, so they could draw the viewer's attention to a particular part. In this case, I think it's where the ankles are, or the knees, the angle that they're bent at. So here's the 22 seconds. It's a quick one, but it was using all three of those to...
Hey guys, Harrison here, and Colin is going to show you how to do a sit-up. He's getting ready, and you can see his feet go under the desk, and his arms extend straight to his knees. And now he's going to do it again, show you exactly how to do it. His arms extending straight to his knees. That's how you do a sit-up. Thanks for watching.
So while you could accomplish this with Explain Everything, I feel like Coach's Eye here is the better app for it, because it's suited for video. And you can actually do side-by-side video. So if you have someone doing something the wrong way and then doing the right way, you can have them be playing simultaneously side-by-side. So I have a sample clip in here. Since this is used a lot for sports-related stuff, we'll analyze baseball swing here. And at the very bottom, I can use the scrubbing frame by frame. I can move. So when he makes contact with the ball, you can see it there. And so I'll make a little video out of this. At the top is my record button. On the right-hand side are all of my drawing tools. And then I can pinch and zoom with 2 fingers to show emphasis on what I want to do. All right, so here we go. Hello team, this is Coach Z here, and I wanted to remind you, when you're holding that bat, notice the angle that we're holding here. Okay, he's got that angle. He's not holding it this way, but it's more of an angle like that, which is kind of neat. That I can draw on the screen and show you that. Let me clear that off. And now I'm going to go frame by frame here and show you when he contacts the ball. Look at how that bat comes down first, and it's just about touching that shoulder. I know we can't see it because the camera's on the wrong side, but if we could see, in that area there on the other side, it's just about touching his shoulder. So let's zoom back out and watch what happens when he makes contact with the ball. It comes down, and that's really low. It's kind of a low pitch. Sometimes we're kind of looking for that plane to be somewhere across here, but he's down here, almost about the knee height to hit that ball. So that could have been something he could have let go to be a ball. If he, luckily he hit it here in this case, but that's our analysis of our video. All right, so I stopped it there by hitting, I thought it was preview, yep. It's going to build an analysis. In other words, it has to process. In video editing terms, this is called rendering. Because there was some motion, I zoomed in, I added panning, I added my voice, all that's being compressed now into one single video. You can send that to your camera roll. You can send that to their built-in hosting that they have. I think they give you like 2 gigabytes free of hosting space. And you can share it on Facebook, Twitter, you name it, pretty much any other place. So, yeah, I don't think we're not going to have audio on it. But just to show you all of your different options there to share, you'll see that come up in a moment there. So I think this is great for a lot of different places. I had the sewing teachers above me that do their career and life skills, and they said, what can I use to make a video to show where your hands should be placed to be safely away from the needle, but where you would feed it in and how fast you would do that. And I thought Coach's Eye would be a great tool for that. Then the teacher could just record the clip on her iPhone, and then play, and also Android, it's available across platform, and then make an analysis video out of it. She could talk through it, she could go frame by frame through it, draw on the screen, pinch and zoom, and all that kind of stuff. I'll do it later. So that, I think, is a good one to highlight for any kind of video analysis you're going to do. And there is capability, again, to do side-by-side and some advanced features too, so I just kind of scratched the surface on that one to show you that. All right, so how are we doing on time? 10:16. We're done here at 10:30, so let me just wrap it up with my app recommendations. You've seen me go through a lot of different apps. There's some other ones in addition that I want to mention. So my recommended tablet screencasting apps, ScreenChomp was the first one we did. Again, it was free, iOS only. Nomia is that one that TechSmith just acquired. There is a free version and a $10 version. This one is very similar to EDUcreations, where they have online hosting. And you can see videos made by previous teachers too. If you make your videos public, other people will be able to see them. If you tag them appropriately, maybe you're doing the quadratic equation, someone that needs that can find it and use that.
So teachers pay teachers for screencasting.
It's the same kind of idea, yeah. So you've got your free version, your paid version. I haven't played around a lot with it, but I do know that they have the picture-in-picture availability on there. So you could put, they call it the face cam, I think they call it. So you can put that right in there. So that's something worth exploring if you're interested in going down that route. We also have, we talked about EDUcreations, Explain Everything, and Coach's Eye. And again, those bottom two have iOS, Android, and Windows versions too. So if you're in a mixed district or a BYOD situation, that might be good because then people could be using the same apps across different platforms. Now, if we talk more of the traditional platforms, like the desktop, or laptops and desktops, like I'm on here, that is more of my 1 o'clock p.m. workshop that'll be in this room today. We're going to focus on Jing, Snagit, and Camtasia. We also have free copies to give away as door prizes. Snagit for Chrome is another screencasting program. Screencastify is one I've been playing around with more recently. And more of a building or district-wide solution. This is where, this is not for the beginners. This is for a school that has pockets of teachers maybe doing screencasting, and they want to have one universal system for the whole school to use, which I think is great. It's called TechSmith Relay. It literally is like DVRing your teaching. It's a very simple install program. It has one big red button on it. You hit record, and it records everything on your screen. When you're done, you don't have to worry about file formats or storing locations or any of that because it automatically uploads it into your into cloud-based storage, so your school district doesn't have to house the content. And then it shoots you an email and says, here's your link to watch it. So it's really taken what I call the multiple-step screencasting route and made it into like 2 steps instead of 10 steps. Not cheap though. I think it starts at a couple $1,000s per year. It's a subscription basis. But when you have a bunch of teachers that are wanting to do screencasting, let's see if this helps explain it, it's a good organization-wide solution.
They just rolled this up, Julie.
TechSmith Relay is an enterprise video solution that allows entire organizations and schools to create and share video in an easy and organized way. Video is a powerful learning tool that is being leveraged more and more in education and training. Innovative teachers are using it to create more effective and personalized learning experiences.
2 times 3. Wait a minute, you ready? No. Ready? Go! Go!
The problem is creating and sharing video today requires expertise in a number of different products and services that keep changing every day. Most teachers don't have time to learn all these technologies in order to benefit from video. In our experience working with educators over the years and helping schools like Clintondale High School in Michigan become the first flipped high school in the nation, we've identified 4 keys to success for widespread adoption within a school or district. First, it has to be ultra simple to record and share your content.
8.6 Solve rational equations.
Second, you need to be able to record both camera and screen content. Third, you need a place to host your content that's school-friendly.
Alright, this is the second video in our Atoms in the Periodic Table series.
Finally, teachers and administrators need assessment capabilities to know how students are learning from this content. All of your videos, all of your analytics, all of your quiz results are in one place. Teachers, administrators, and...
So it's almost like they're giving you your own private YouTube space where everything is secured by you. You can make your own specific groups by class period or by all the math students, all the English students. People can get notified through email automatically when a new teacher puts something up there. A use case scenario we heard was that the principal would make a video to watch before the faculty meeting. And all that you'd have to do is just do what you normally do, check your email, and oh look, the principal sent a video, and watch it, and now you're prepped in advance and you know what the topic's about. So when you get to that faculty meeting, you jump right in on the discussion part and not sit through the presentation part, because you can consume that part beforehand, flip learning style, and then dig in deeper and do the higher level stuff. Because really, in my opinion, meetings shouldn't be where you go to learn new stuff. It should be where you go to discuss stuff you've already learned, and therefore go a little bit deeper with it. So TechSmith Relay is one of those great tools that makes it simple for everybody. I think even your most veteran teachers that are not very tech savvy and very afraid of the technology could handle something like that. And I have proof of that because I had at least 2 people that come to mind in my building who have now since retired. But in the past few years, I've done stuff like this, and I know that they've got frustrated with it. I showed them how simple it was to DVR their lesson, and they were like, oh, I can figure that out. That's very easy. And as a result, they said, oh, if I wasn't retiring, I would be using this right away. So I think it's very powerful when you have a tool that does that, combines it all together. But again, comes with a pretty hefty price tag. So it depends on if that's something the district really wants to go into. A lot of schools that are going one-to-one do this because now you're licensing the school and not licensing machines. So every parent, every student, every teacher, whether they're at home or work or school or wherever, has access to do these tools. They can download the software, put it on my MacBook, put it on my Gateway machine, put it on my iPad, put it wherever and use it. So you're no longer buying licenses to license devices. You're licensing the people. Therefore, if they have 20 devices each, you can install it 20 times 500 people in an organization, doesn't matter. So it's a great concept. It's new in the industry, but again, it's a little bit pricey. Yes, you could. Yep, because you will get on your videos that are stored in TechSmith Relay, you get an embed code, and I would just grab that code and put it right in Edmodo. Therefore, my kids would have an easy way to get to the videos, and then by them watching it, it prompts them to log in, so I already know who's watched it, what percentage they've watched it, and then it'll keep track of the quiz questions if I optionally built those in. So you really get some accountability. And the graphs are nice because every night at like 8 p.m. it sends you an email. And I could see, it was really cool. I'd say, okay, so 80% of the kids watched it, but only like 30% were getting the quiz questions right. So I knew tomorrow morning I better make sure when I go through, cover how we did that equation for the calculating distances thing, because even though they watched it, a lot of them weren't understanding it. And so I had that information before class started. So it's one of those ways of using tools wisely to do that. So that is TechSmith Relay. All right, we have just enough time left here. We got about 6-7 minutes left. We'll do that for our prizes.